There are three matters I want to talk about with you tonight. I don't want to talk about police pursuits, which was in fact our main focus for my husband, myself and my daughter Zoe for many years, because we've achieved our goal with police pursuits. There's still some other work to be done, but that's work that we will follow through with the police, and it's in train. I am here to talk about victims of crime, the purpose for which I was awarded my Order of Australia medal. I'm going to talk about three different things. The first is, being a victim of crime, how do you heal? The second is victims of crime in the criminal justice system. And the third is, how can you, individuals, family members, friends, members of the community, help people who are victims of serious crime? And I should emphasise what I know is serious crime. Minor crimes, sure, I've had a little bit of it in my life, everybody has. But where I've been involved has been with serious crime. So, being a victim of crime, nobody expects to be a victim of crime, and particularly nobody expects to be a victim of serious crime. This is not something we think about. It is not something we plan for. It is a terrible thing that happens to some of us. And it may have happened to you, it may have happened to somebody you know, that it happens. How do you heal? It's a long and slow process. It is very hard work. My key message about healing, which my husband and my daughter and I found quite by chance, at least 6 years after our daughter was killed, is you heal by helping others, by working for change, whatever change you might see as being relevant and useful to the community and to individuals in the area that's affected you. For us, it was specifically police pursuits. But there were many things that diverged from police pursuits, one of them being our engagement with victims of crime. It was a sideline, and yet it has become a major thing. Somehow that focus on others, we never expected this, helps the victim to heal. I cannot emphasise this strongly enough. It sounds like some shocking Christian message. I'm sorry if I'm offending people who are Christian, but really it does. But it's not. It is the most humane thing to care for other people. In our case, we cared very much for the community that gave us such extraordinary support in those terrible early years. And it was our way of giving back to the community, to help to save other lives. As I said, it led to a range of other things. I should add here, by the way, something I've never told you, John. I loathe the term victim. Victim makes you sound like something has happened to. And one of our goals, Ross and I, is going to be to find a different term. There will be a different term. And that actually leads me into my next point. Being a victim of crime in relation to the criminal justice system. The justice system is a very odd being. And I should say, first up, that we, Ross, Zoe and I, had absolutely gold standard treatment from it. But we are unusual. Not many people get the sort of treatment we had in terms of access to information, consultation, and being involved in decision making, not making the decisions, but being involved, being a part of the large group that makes decisions about things like, will the crime be reduced to a lesser crime, for example, the crime the person is charged with. So we were the gold standard, but most people are not the gold standard. Most people have a much more challenging path who, in their dealings with the justice system, they are not given the information they need on things like the person who committed the crime against them or the person they care for, being released on bail, having the charge against them reduced in magnitude, a range of other things. Even small matters like when the court hearings are, or more significantly, when the person who committed the crime against them is going to be released from prison, if that's the eventual outcome of the judgment. There are principles for how to treat victims of crime, but nobody in particular owns them. And so they're acted on kind of by chance. And those principles do include things like access to information, but they're not readily acted on. They include things like being proactive in giving victims of crime information, but again, they're not acted on because nobody owns them. Victims of crime need to have greatly enhanced rights in relation to the crime that's been committed against them. Now those rights include access to information about the crime that has affected them, and it also includes involvement in decision making about the person who committed that crime. I'm not talking about influencing judges or anything like that. That's obviously that's the law, that's a very different side. As I said, I'm talking about things like, is the person going to be released on bail? Will the charge be reduced from a more serious charge to a lesser charge? That sort of thing. And as for the information, so much is so basic, people don't get as a matter of course. Criminals have a lot of rights. They are enshrined in our human rights legislation. I'm not suggesting those rights be reduced. Rather, I'm saying that the rights of victims must be enhanced. And this is something we intend to pursue with our government and with agencies. There's a bit of me that says, when I was awarded my OAM and the news came out on Australia Day, there were probably people in government saying, "Oh God, no, not her." Because I do have, both I and my husband have something of a reputation for going in and saying it like it is, like we see it, you know. Now, so that was my second point. My third point is, how can you, community members, family members, friends, help somebody who has been the victim of a serious crime? At this point, I'm going to break from my usual practice of only speaking. I'm actually going to read to you something that I wrote with a friend. We wrote it for a book that a friend of mine was putting out to help women who had cancer and who were likely to die. It was also to help women who'd suddenly become blind. These two things having affected my friend. And she asked me and my friend, another friend, to write about what it's like when somebody close to you dies. Now, I've both had somebody very, very dear to me die, and I've also been a victim of serious crime, and my assessment is these two things are not all that dissimilar in the way people react to you. So I've modified what I wrote for my dear friend Liz and made it appropriate to victims of crime. If you'll forgive me, I will read it. People, and I just hope I get through without my reading glasses, because I just recently had my cataracts done and I'm kind of dodgy on the reading. You might have to take over.
I left my reading glasses in the car.
Somebody will have to take over. There's always an excuse for it. People who are victims of serious crime will not be the same as they were before the crime was committed. Different parts of their personality will be evident, and they'll be much stronger and more resilient than you expect. But they will also have to learn to live with the crime, and they'll have much to learn about the justice system and their role in it. They're also likely to experience a variety of health issues, including post-traumatic stress disorder. And that is not something that disappears. The remnants of it are always with you, no matter how early you get treatment. It can take an act of courage for these people to face each day. Don't expect to be perfect at helping your friend. We don't get a lot of practice at dealing with serious crime, but people do as well as they can given their limited experience. The problem is knowing what to do. There's no right or wrong way to help people in these difficult situations, so don't try to get it right or feel you have failed. The key things are to be there for the person who's a victim and to listen. Be clear with them that you want to help. Let the person tell their story. They are probably describing things exactly as they are for them. Advice is not needed or wanted. Leave that to the experts. Avoid platitudes. You can't solve their problem, but you can be a sounding board. While comment on relevant experience of your own may help, let them tell their story without comparing it with somebody else. You don't have to find a sensitive way out of the discussion, and be wary of changing the subject suddenly. Let it flow. If it becomes difficult for you, say so, and then change the subject. Don't ignore what has happened, nor avoid the person, nor treat them as if they have something contagious. Ask questions. Do not make suppositions. Your friends may express thoughts that seem unacceptable, and they may conflict with other things your friend says. Do not judge them, or think that you have to be positive. Check with your friend. Let them guide you. You will be helping with serious matters, and it is hard work. Accept what has happened will weave in and out of the conversation, because it is always in the person's mind. That doesn't mean they are falling in a heap, they're failing to cope. They are dealing with matters that are overwhelming and may be unable to think of anything else until they learn how to manage. People learn to live with what seems impossible to live with. They learn to continue to live their chosen life to the greatest extent they can. Don't try to imagine what the person is experiencing and how you would act and feel in their situation. You will be wrong unless you've had a similar devastating experience. You can empathise without imagining. Be honest about how you feel. People like your friend often live on several levels or in several realities at once. They may be perfectly normal on the level you observe, while at the same time living a completely different and more intense life beneath. They may be feeling quite content when unexpectedly they are hit by what happened. Until they learn to manage the different realities, this can be difficult for them and for you. And there will always be unpredictable triggers that cause difficult emotions to surface. Give them time to deal with these. People learn to live with what we think no one can live with. They learn to manage. They do not move on. Don't hug someone unless you are sure it is welcome. Too often a hug reflects the needs of the hugger, not the person who's being hugged. Ask first. A hug may break through the person's careful management of themselves and the barrier they have erected around their emotions. It is risky to do this, and it is unwarranted. Let the person behave the way they choose. Some people seek solitude, some want company. Accept the difference. There is no right and wrong way for a person to behave in these situations. A person knows life is not safe. That you can suddenly fall off the cliff into the abyss. As a result, they may surprise you by what they are able to accept and the seeming risks they take. It is best not to discuss with others how you think the person has changed. This too easily degenerates into gossip and can have a negative effect on how to see the person. Stick to factual statements. Little signs of thought can help, as can practical assistance. Go for a coffee with the person, cook a meal, do some shopping or cleaning. Share happiness and the outside world with the person. Victimhood isn't the only thing in their life. I'll let you know if you're overdoing it. You can learn and understand if you keep an open mind. That's what I would say to you about dealing with victims. There's a lot in what I just read to you, and I don't expect you to take it all. But if you follow those principles of listening and of empathising and of being there, you won't go too far wrong. The only time people go wrong is when they avoid people. And if you want to know how wrong people can go, I do not speak to the very few people, 2 of them I think they were, who avoided me, because they could not cope with what life can throw for any of us. Does that sound harsh? That's the reality. Thank you. Not at all. And John will help me, because John, as our Victims of Crime Commissioner, has a lot more knowledge than me.
We have Rob up the back.
Right, you spoke earlier about the barriers to getting information. Obviously that will come from instruments such as the police and the courts. Your efforts to assist in that, how do you achieve that? Is it, you said that the systems are written so that they should give you this sort of information, with people who are victims of crime or their helpers, but that it doesn't happen. Do you understand or have an insight into why it doesn't happen and how to change it?
I think the reason it doesn't happen is because of the lack of coordination in relation to the giving of information, and I believe the solution lies with the Victims of Crime Commissioner and Victim Support ACT, who give the very high levels of support to people who contact them. And the police, I wouldn't single out the police. We found the police, and have continued to find the police, very helpful and forthcoming. And the police will often direct victims of serious crime, if I'm correct, on to the victim support people. We found it through a brochure at the hospital. I presume we would have found them through other routes if we hadn't found it there. But John, you might like to add to what I said. This is much more your field.
Yeah, well, Francis mentioned that I know a lot more than Francis, but I know the mechanics of the criminal justice system, but not the depth of what you just heard Francis speak about, which Francis describes a lot of theoretical, the humanity of the theoretical practice of treating or providing that therapeutic support to victims. As you can see, Frances is a little bit forward in her manner and articulate, and also suffered a grievous loss. So I think the combination of those elements made people a little bit cautious of Frances about how to treat her as a victim of crime, and ensured that what should be delivered to Frances under the Victims of Crimes Act was in fact delivered. But not all victims suffer such grievous loss, and in the criminal justice system, the majority of people don't receive the sort of information that they should receive to allow them to be informed also to participate in decisions that affect them. Now, if you look at the guiding principles under the Victims of Crimes Act, which sets out how victims should be treated, it's couched in language of a passive reception of information, inferenced after the fact, after decisions are made, almost paternalistic in the way it's phrased, written in 1994. And that's not so long ago, but when you consider the movements for victims and the advocacy that's taken place, we're moving into a new era. And the ACT is at the forefront of this. It was in 1994 when it drafted the Victims of Crimes Act off the back of advocacy from homicide victims. Families of victims of homicide got together and formed a vocal volunteer group and advocated for statutory rights. And that's where the Victims of Crimes Act came into being. It's one of the first in Australia. And now we're going to move towards trying to strengthen those guiding principles into active rights. So that there's a positive obligation on the criminal justice system to deliver the sort of information that Francis spoke about, and also to include people in decisions that affect them. I don't know whether I've answered the question.
Yeah, well, one of the things that interests me, because I deal a bit with Australian standards and their application and compliance, is that sometimes some of the standards get so complicated they actually put a bit at the back to explain it in plain English. And I think that's excessively amusing.
Well,
annoying too.
And, I'm not sure whether I'm taking the lead on that, but further to just articulating what those rights should be, we need also some standards of service delivery that supports the delivery of those rights. And that is, they are cultural changes, they are attitudinal changes in the way the criminal justice system views the role of victims. Victims traditionally have, in recent times, historically, relatively recent times, their purpose is to provide the evidence for the criminal justice system to activate a prosecution. That's their primary role in the criminal justice system. We think that role should be moved more into the centre of a criminal justice process, which is what restorative justice tries to attempt.
Just following on from that, as I understand, one of the limited knowledge of the criminal justice system is that when someone does commit an offence, it's an offence against society, rather,
yes.
And it's the responsibility of the police and the courts to bring that person to justice, and it's not necessarily directed at the victims who have suffered as a result of that crime. But I'm interested, the Australian experience seems to be different to somewhere like the US, where, I mean, you see on crime shows this idea about pressing charges and things like that, and I don't think we have a concept of that similar to that here in Australia. So do you have any sort of comment about that, about why, at least in the US, the victims do seem a bit more central in the criminal justice process?
Look, there are different systems. Our system of government evolves from the English Westminster system. Our criminal justice system evolves from the European feudal system of justice. You're correct, we have moved the victim from the centre to the periphery, and the state has assumed the obligation to take responsibility for the harm done. So we are moving along different parallels, if you could say. European justice is often based around inquisitorial systems. Our system of justice is an adversarial system, and so we have arrived at a point in time where we stage a contest between the state and the accused, played out before an arbitrator in the form of a magistrate or judge. And the victim doesn't play much of a role in that play or that pantomime.
The problem with that is if you're the victim, you're the one who has suffered the most, and you are negated if you in fact only have this very limited role of A, being a victim, and B, providing some evidence. And there are significant costs to society from that negation, leaving aside the costs to the individual victim.
But also reflect on the fact that America imprisons more people than most developed countries in the world and has a higher crime rate and a higher murder rate. So American culture is very different to ours, and their approach to crime and what they perceive to be a just response to crime is very different to ours. I think I much prefer our approach to crime. Locking people up in prison is not going to solve crime. It's not going to bring a sense of justice to many victims' hearts. They might be appeased in the short term, but the wrong done to them requires a deeper response. I think Francis alluded to the fact that the procedural justice issues that victims have to face are often as difficult as the crime itself, and we can do a lot. I think we can do a lot better in our procedural justice, the delivery of justice to victims in a procedural manner.
Mike?
Yeah, John, I just wanted to follow up on the case with our daughter. My wife and I went to see the DPP. We went to the Victims of Crime website, and it was about what the victims or what the DPP responsibilities were. And they said that wasn't their responsibility. And then I think we talked to you.
Which responsibility?
I can't remember the specific ones, but there were listed that the DPP was responsible for. And
in the Act.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was in the Act. It was on the website. I guess the reason I'm asking this to you is that you said you would check with the DPP and resolve that, and I don't know if you've had a chance to do that, because it was just, the concern I have is that people would go onto the website and assume certain things, and the DPP at the time was saying they didn't do that. So,
Well, look, I did raise that with the DPP. The solution will be a recasting of those guiding principles.
Okay.
Those guiding principles don't assign any responsibility to any particular agency except for police. Only one of them talk to, not even police. They say that the victim should be informed of the progress of the investigation, at least monthly. So, you weren't.
We weren't.
And there are many cases like yours where our trust in the system is betrayed, I think. Only at the higher end. Domestic violence receives a better response because there's a particular command or unit within police now to deal with domestic violence, and there are 7 categories of offences where police have identified. These are the most serious. Our victim liaison officers will take responsibility for keeping people informed. But I believe that we need to recast those guiding principles into rights and assign obligations very specifically. And I think that's the long-term solution.
Thank you.
Yeah, coming back to the issue of not getting information, our legal system is entirely based on an adversarial one that's very historic. And because of that, the mindset of everybody in the law is that you don't tell people about anything because they might be able to use it to gain something, and you don't want them to. Justice has nothing to do with it. It's a power game, and it's we win, you lose, rather than bring all the facts out. Having said that, I think you can't have a democracy, nor can you have a legal system where much of the information is secret. To have a proper legal system or a proper democracy, all the information has to be out there, but the very nature of an adversarial system says, oh no, we won't. Now, I don't know how we get around that, but I think it's an ingrained mindset in most people in the legal profession not to share any information if they can possibly avoid it and give you the minimum that they can get away with. And I think that's why so many people here have had really bad situations. And I know from a personal situation where there was a major attempt to hide evidence in the case because it might have aided the victim to get some justice. We can't have that. Sorry?
Have to have a chat about that, mate. Trade stories.
Could I comment on that?
Yes, please, that's the point.
In my experience, that was not the case. And I'm less inclined to attribute it to a secretive nature than more straightforwardly to a failure to think of victims and to a failure to coordinate what victims get, what victims are. In our situation, and bear in mind the crime that resulted in our daughter's death caused outrage across Canberra, and it caused outrage over an extended period of time. In addition, as John said, once Claire died, we came out fighting, but we were different from most people who are victims of crime. We were articulate, highly educated. We understood how government worked. We understood how the courts worked because of the sorts of areas that my husband and I had worked in. And in addition, frankly, we looked good. Don't discount the value of looking good. We dressed okay, we were acceptable. And we were paid attention to because the very nature of the crime that was committed against our daughter, people could see that it was something that could have happened to their child, could still, well, it can't anymore. As of March last year, it can't, very unlikely to happen, except in terms of pursuit for major crime, which is a very different category from the minor crime that virtually every pursuit is for. But you can see, it's not, I think it's not so much a matter of some sort of closing down as a failure to think and a failure to consider the nature of the individuals that the various services are dealing with. This is the sort of person, the sort of situation John and his team deal with all the time.
Could I just pick up on your point? The information exchange, the release of information, sharing of information is a current topic in the criminal justice system, not only in this jurisdiction but in others. It came up in Luke Batty's, the coronial inquiry into Luke Batty's death, where the coroner made recommendations to remove impediments to the sharing of information. Because Rosie Batty could have been given information by police that might have changed her decision to take Luke to cricket training that day. The Victorian Law Reform, the Victorian Royal Commission into Domestic Violence has made recommendations around information sharing. The ACT government has released a discussion paper on how to better share information in the criminal justice system. And the Royal Commission into the Institutional Abuse of Children has released an information paper. So, and I think that commission, that Royal Commission, will be a watershed commission for victims of crime in this country. It will make, I believe, the recommendations that we need to see to take the next step around information sharing, the breaking open of that criminal justice system that is so closed.
Francis, your words are wise beyond measure. Thank you. I really appreciated your text that you read out. It's invaluable advice.
Thank you.
John, you just mentioned the Royal Commission into
Institutional abuse.
Institutional abuse. And I was wondering, from what you're saying in terms of the ACT Act on Victims of Crime, you mentioned rights and obligations. Francis also mentioned the principles that you'd like to see attributed into some person, tribunal, some law enforcement. I guess, where does the community fit in all of this? How can we
Participate, have a say.
Yes.
Hopefully this year is the year that is going to be the opportunity for the community. It's my job to help the Victims Advisory Board consult with the community. This is the sort of groups that we need to consult with. The government has indicated it doesn't want us to see the traditional consultative methods where they release a discussion paper and ask you to write a 400-page submission.
Yes.
Free time. we need to go out and speak to the community, and that's what I aim to do. So we're developing a project with the University of Canberra about how to best conduct that consultation, and hopefully in the next, and of course people like Francis will be invited to join focus groups with my office to hear this sort of stuff.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's the sort of stuff we need to hear, and then we need to find a way to put that into legislation and regulation that causes a shift in culture.
Right, thank you.
Lucky last question, Leon.
All right.
Make it quick.
This is, all right, Francis, you read to us from a statement of advice on how to deal with victims of crime. Can you tell us if that's available on the web or somewhere else so that I can tell people where to find it and read it?
It actually comes from a book written by my friend Liz Dawson called Where is My Left Eyebrow? Helping women and girls live with cancer, and I think it's, anyhow, so another friend of mine whose little girl was killed in terrible circumstances, and we wrote that piece together. And what I read to you was something that I modified about 4 hours ago from that.
Can I put that in minutes or something? Is that all right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. So it's a modified version, and I ran it past a couple of people, knowledgeable about such matters, and they were of the view that yes, it was helpful. That these things weren't that different. These terrible traumas happen to people. People's reactions are not that different.
Thanks.
So it's not on the web.
Do you wish it to be on the web?
But I
Can we
have
leave that with you?
Well, I've got a website. It's up to you.
I'll think about it. I'll talk about it with Ross as well.
My plan was to put it in the minutes of the meeting. Go on the web, you can run it.
Exactly, I think you should think about it.
I'm not too concerned about it being on the North Canberra Community Council website.
Oh, we're pretty famous.
I know. But within a fairly small circle.
It's just that it's a very powerful statement.
Sorry?
It's just that it's a very powerful
It was a
statement that's not buried in a big book.
As I said, in the book we're talking about people who are dying, not about victims of crime. The book is written for people, really for people dying. It's an outstanding book, despite its title, which I think is a bit of a mistake, but it's an outstanding book.
I thought you were talking about one of my teenage sons.
Yes, well there is that about it.
Yeah.
But my friend had also suddenly lost virtually all her vision like in the space of an hour, and so she could never see her left eyebrow again. It's just one of those odd references. It doesn't mean much to anybody except for my friend. But she asked a lot of people to contribute to her book, her specialists, people from the blind community, people who had cancer, friends, lifelong friends, people like myself who had experienced the death of somebody they were very close to. It's a very unusual book, but a very helpful book. For those who are trying to assist somebody in very difficult personal circumstances, the advice is very good because it draws on so many sources and uses the words of so many people. But I'm not really here to advertise my friend's book.
Well, I'd like you all please to put your hands together. Thank you very much. Francis, somebody has wrapped this thing with these funny hedgehog echidnas, and it's a small token of our appreciation for you coming along.
Thank you very much.
And I hope you enjoy it. There is